us in this open conversation with my excellent colleagues, Dana Doyle and Curt Newton. This is part of the Open Conversation series that focuses on ways open learning is making a positive impact in the lives of people, communities, and the world. Dana leads the amazing team who produces the MITx massive open online courses and the MITx MicroMasters programs. Since the program began 10 years ago, more than 4 million people have come to learn with MIT, and the vast majority do so for free, and we totally appreciate that. Curt leads the wonderful OpenCourseWare team that's responsible for taking the teaching materials used in MIT classrooms and making them openly and freely available online. Since the program began over 25 years ago, more than 500 million people have come to OCW to use, reuse, mix, remix, and distribute this content openly and widely. These are both incredible leaders at open learning and in sharing and making MIT courses and materials accessible to the world. And today, we get to learn more about their thoughts and reflections and experiences in open education and how they see we're shaping the open education landscape in the years to come. My name is Yvonne Ng, and I am the Annual Giving and Donor Relations Officer for MIT Open Learning. I'm part of the team that helps secure funding for all of these wonderful efforts and also for new efforts such as amazing dynamic learning experiences that we share with the world. And today is a special day because not only do I get to speak with these fabulous people, but it's the annual MIT Giving Day, known as the 24-hour challenge. And I'll have more information about that at the end of this conversation. Dana and Curt, thank you for speaking with me today. Your programs have really touched the lives of millions of people. And so when you hear the phrase, the power of open knowledge, what comes to mind, especially in the context of education today? Dana, I'll start with you.
Sure. First, let me say thank you for putting this together. It's really great to have the opportunity to talk to everybody and share our thoughts with them and kind of about the work that we're doing. So thank you. I think that the power of free knowledge is just the phrase itself helps remind people that knowledge is available. You do not have to pay for knowledge. You can find it in many places. I mean, for example, with OpenCourseWare or MITx, you can find MIT educational materials and courses mostly for free, where the learning is available. You've got your public libraries. I mean, knowledge is there. But when people talk about education, they start talking about degrees and certifications, things that cost money, right? And so I think it's really important for people to kind of understand, even if you are unable to go to an institution to get a degree, there is learning available for you. And I think that as our society, we really need to kind of focus on what do people know, not what piece of paper do they have. And I know saying that coming from MIT, where you get degrees and things like that, maybe you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen at MIT? Of course, there's always going to be degrees, but I think it's really like with the power of free knowledge, you also get to do some like try before you buy, right? Like you think you want to be a biologist, like maybe take a free biology course first and see if that really works for you or not before you commit to it going to a 4-year program. And I think that's a couple of the benefits from the education that we provide that's free and available, is it lets people really experiment and find out what they love, what it excites them, what inspires them, and what they can do to have an impact on the world. So I think it's that difference between understanding that knowledge is there and what does the term education actually mean?
I love that you kind of hint on the flexibility there too, the flexibility and trying something new as opposed to just kind of paying for an education and hoping that everything works.
Right. Exactly. Well, maybe it'll be good.
And now, Curt, what's your take? What do you think about when you hear the phrase, the power of open knowledge?
Yeah.
Or free knowledge, sorry.
Thank you. First thing is, I feel like I could talk about this for the whole hour. I'll pick up on the framing around education relative to a sort of the broader conception of like lifelong learning, and how it's increasingly imperative that while we show up as best we can in sort of formal educational settings that are, say, degree granting, for so many of the things that are developing and will continue to develop in the world, we need to support people truly with lifelong learning. And I think of perhaps sort of three aspects of what happens when that knowledge is open and free for people. And these are things that we can't take for granted. Yes, they are that way in many spheres, but also, there's need to continue to improve that, as we go forward. First off, is this sort of concept of like, we need to be supporting people resiliently because their life can take different sort of turns and paths, and to allow them to continue to learn regardless of what else might be happening in their life is really key, and having knowledge free for that is really, really essential. Another aspect is when knowledge is free and open for people, it allows us all to respond to things in a much more nimble and speedy way. I'll think back to, for instance, the COVID pandemic and the way that science flowed instantly online and available for everybody, and how that frankly enabled the world to respond to this thing in rapid and effective ways. And the last thing is knowledge takes so many different forms, right? And there's expertise as expressed, say, from the faculty at MIT, but also expertise that's embodied in lived experiences and in communities. And when knowledge is shared freely and openly, these things all get to mix it up with each other. And so there's this imperative to have the knowledge be sort of the space to be inclusive for everybody to be able to contribute and to have dialogue about it.
Yeah, no, I love how you just framed that whole understanding of what free knowledge is and how meaningful it can be to so many people's lives, but also in the context of open education. Can you talk maybe a little bit about perhaps some of the misconceptions people have about open education? Because many of these things are free, but what does it truly mean to be open?
Yeah, well, I'll start with, some of the distinctions between, free and open.
Yes.
That it's a necessary part of open for it to not require, paying a lot of money to access. So free is a necessary but not like complete sufficient part of being open. The other aspects of open I think are really important are that you can carry the material with you, you can adapt it, you have the rights to do so and redistribute it, remix it. So for instance, again, the perspective on an important topic from, an MIT professor that we might share through OpenCourseWare, is sort of broadly relevant in such this context, but then we want to encourage people to make that real and land, situated in whatever the context in their community it makes sense, and then share that back with the world, put that back into the commons so that other people who are in similar situations can see that and inspire, and we get this sort of virtuous, cycle of reciprocity. And that's really the big thing that open creates. Yeah.
And on the donor relations side, I love that we have this attitude of gratitude with this idea of open reciprocity. But I want to switch gears now a little to find out about your open learning origin story. Dana, what pulled you into this work and what keeps you excited about MITx today?
Yeah, I think I've always been a curious person. I have very eclectic tastes. I like to know a little bit about all types of things. I like to call myself a creative person. Maybe other people do as well. I don't know, not my problem.
Dana.
But it's, you own who you are, you know what I'm saying? So I actually went to art school. I majored in photography, and even then, I was studying astronomy. I went to school in New York City, and believe it or not, there actually is a very rich astronomy club that is, and this is the best thing, it actually meets in the Museum of Natural History after hours. So it's like being in a movie. You get to walk by the dinosaur skeletons and the dioramas. It's all dark and creepy. It's really cool. But I have a passion for lifelong learning, which I didn't really identify it that way. And then after art school, I became a designer. And so the thing about being a designer is that you are tasked with being a creative problem solver, but with restraints. And I think that is one of the more challenging aspects of anything that you do is like, here's the problem that I need to solve, but I have to do it in this box. What's the best that I can do? And that's what I learned in art school that applies to everything that I do. And over time, I kind of, going through the fields and everything else, I really just kept coming back to that lifelong learning that I enjoy. And this opportunity came up to work at MITx. And by this time, I had been a designer for 25 years and was ready to try something new. So I went back to school, got a master's in online education, and have been working here for about 10 years now of just really finding solutions, working with faculty, which is super exciting because you have these amazing, brilliant people coming to you for help in communicating what they know. And I just love working with people who their curiosity is what drives them. And I think I find that as a driver in myself. So that's the connection that I find here that every day I find really exciting, not with just the faculty, but the people that I work with. I mean, everybody is so invested in what we do and are such creative thinkers. Like it just really ties together really well.
Excellent. And so, Curt, you joined OpenCourseWare not too long after it launched. What first convinced you that open education could potentially change lives?
Yeah. I just celebrated my 22nd anniversary here with this project, and I feel incredibly lucky every day that I get to do this work. I think kind of similar to Dana, I had different backgrounds, before I got here. I was trained as a electrical engineer, worked for Bell Labs in communication systems engineering, worked at a startup, also took a break in the middle of that and went to conservatory to study jazz drumming performance. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this work is in the breadth of it, we don't have to compartmentalize, that we can, bring everything in and let it mix up and allow our curiosity to lead us in new places and, try to inspire our learners to do the very same thing. I remember when the program was launched, I was freelance writing for Technology Review, and I pitched, man, I'd like to write a story about OCW. They said, no, we've got one of our staff writers on it. But I said, okay, well, I'm going to get a job there. And I did. And it's just been wonderful, and to know that we have, reached so many people and had this sort of positive benefit, and that one's work gets to have that positive benefit. It's a gift that I want to keep repaying.
Dana, what's a course or program moment that made you think, this is why we do it?
Oh, I have the perfect answer for that.
Tell me.
The MicroMasters celebration that we do every year. And it's an hour long. And so that's the MicroMasters program that you talked about earlier. And it's a hard program. So it's part of our lifelong learning. And you take, I think it's about 5 MIT courses. Like they are actually MIT courses that are put online. And if you complete all the courses, pay a small fee for the paid track, you can get a certificate and a credential for the entire MicroMasters. So people put in an enormous amount of work, and it's incredible of, all the different life circumstances. You've got people who are working full time, you've got people who have taken time off, you've got people, who are doing it on their phone, which, blows my mind. I'm like, I can barely order food on my phone, and they're taking derivatives or something like that. And at the celebration, we invite all of the MicroMasters credential holders from that year, and we highlight some of the learner stories. And to just hear these stories again, as I said, they're so varied. But the dedication that people have, not just to themselves, really, of I can do this, and the joy of somebody discovering that they can, right? So because the courses are available to audit first, as I said, try before you buy. So people can try it, and a lot of times it's not even that they want to see if they like it, they're not sure if they can do it, right? Because they're like, MIT, oh, that's super hard, I don't know. But this is nobody's watching you. You can go, you can try it out. Doesn't work for you? Nobody's going to judge you. It's your own thing, right? I mean, you may judge yourself, but that's up to you. Mm-hmm. But hearing from these people and seeing how it's changed their lives, not just in the work that they do, but how they feel about themselves, is so exciting and so rewarding. And every year we have that celebration. Every year I walk away going this is amazing. Like the work that we all put into it is worth it because we have impacted so many lives. And these are just the people that come to the celebration. There are plenty of people who have participated that don't. And so that to me every year is like a refresher of me being like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm so glad that people take advantage of it. And I mean, like in ways that I couldn't even imagine.
Sure. What about you, Curt? Like over the years, I'm sure you've encountered people or you read stories or you've spoken to people that talk to you about how OpenCourseWare might have changed their lives. Are there any stories that kind of stay with you?
Yeah, well, there are so many, and people can go to the OpenCourseWare website and see on the homepage links to some of our favorite stories of the moment. I think the one that I'll cite here is the latest instance of a sort of an ongoing thread of stories that we hear from people about these materials, supporting resilience to continue to learn through challenging situation. A young woman named Sofia Lepkovich was a Ukrainian high school student when the war started there a few years ago, and she and some of her student colleagues, wanted to keep learning. They felt like they were, college bound, but there were barriers that they were facing. Discovered OpenCourseWare, started working with the materials, and that in itself would be amazing. High school students motivated to do so. But it didn't stop there, and drawing again on the power of this knowledge being shared openly, gave them the permission to translate some of those materials into Ukrainian language because they knew some English, but to be able to track with the use of language in English and some of these pretty advanced subjects, they got tremendous benefit from being able to translate those materials, and our license encourages people to do that and share that back with their community as well. And so that one I think is really a real highlight. And I'll just say, Sophia is a first-year student at MIT this year, so we've gotten to meet her in person, and that's really a treat.
Dana and Curt, thank you so much for sharing these stories because they truly highlight both the scale and the real human impact of our programs. Now let's talk about what impact looks like today. And these questions are for both of you. Where do you see the strongest impact today in the context of our learners, educators, or institutions? Or you could answer, how do MITx and OCW complement each other in the ecosystem of open education?
Which question do you want to take?
Yeah. I know I threw a loop at that.
Okay, that's okay. How about if, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm often asked about the sort of complementary relationship.
Okay, let's start there.
Let me just jump in there. We hear from many of our learners that they do use both of these programs, these approaches to sharing materials, and they feed off of each other. They might discover that this stuff is even available through, for instance, our videos on YouTube. We're getting the content where people are looking, and then they start to explore that stuff. And at a certain point, they might want to move beyond oh my gosh, all of these materials are here free, completely self-directed learning that OCW is really most especially suited for. They want to take some complete courses and to do so perhaps with a social cohort that they get to work through. And so they'll jump over and they'll start to work with MITx. They'll be partway through the MITx class and realize, ooh, I need to brush up on a little prerequisite knowledge. Boom, I found this lecture video over at OpenCourseWare and I can jump over and back and forth. And so that sort of, feedback, within the system is really helpful for people.
Love that. I love that. So I'm going to move us along, and here we are. We're imagining the future of open education, and what it could potentially look like. And so, for you to consider, if you had a magic wand, what would the open education landscape look like in 5 years?
For me, I would love it to be more integrated into everyday life. And I think that people are becoming more, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but more aware that lifelong learning that's what's happening. Like you can't avoid that. There's no, I went to school, I'm done learning, I go to my job, I have it for 20 years, I get my watch and I retire. Like that does not really exist anymore. And maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. But I think that having people understand and really absorb that, like, you need to keep learning. Like, you're not done. Like, you're never going to be done, because things are just changing so quickly. New things are being discovered, and it can be really exciting instead of daunting. And I think by having open education and people understanding what that is, and because I think about, like, a lot of towns have libraries, and I don't know, they don't seem as busy as I would think that they should be. I mean, it's free books, right? I mean,
Right.
and so I would love to see, like, the connection between people's desire for lifelong learning and the awareness of you can do that for free. Like, they're like beyond your library. I mean, you could start there. There's computers there. You can access OCW. You can access MITx. There are actually a lot of other institutions and universities that also supply free content. And so my magic wand would be, how do we get into people's algorithms so that they can really absorb that and connect with it?
What about you,
Yeah.
Curt?
Well, I appreciate the magic wand framing, and I think about how so much of the storytelling we have about magic is, oh, wow, look at this great new thing that opened up. But then there's some like tricky sort of flip side stuff, challenges that come up that were maybe unforeseen. 5 years out, without question, our relationship with knowledge is going to be completely transformed through artificial intelligence,
Right.
right? And so what I hope for 5 years out, and with all humility, we just beginning to grasp like what these things might turn into. What I hope for is that the great things that artificial intelligence is enabling, are held in the right balance with the continued need for like real human expertise and discernment, right? The models that are driving a lot of AI right now tend to sort of average all of the world's knowledge and, sand the edges off some, specific insights that we might need to get access to. And I'm hopeful that our relationship with knowledge and our ability to like work through all the things that are presented to us by these algorithms don't get in the way of continued discernment and our ability to connect with each other as people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what strikes me is that both of you kind of landed on the human factor, the fact of continuing to learn, but also continuing to bring that human expertise in the things that you see and the things that you're able to learn online. And now there's a lightning round of questions for both of you to answer. These are 5 questions for you to give us your hot take on the topic. Can you talk about one skill you hope every learner can build with open resources?
My answer is ethics, actually, and humanities, because I feel like there's a lot of, and for years now, there's been a lot of focus on STEM, and again, no offense
We're at
to
MIT,
Dana. I know,
Dana.
but MIT, has an amazing humanities,
true.
school. It's and it's so imperative that people understand, again, that human aspect of, it's not, I mean, it's all science, but I mean, like, it's, you have to bring yourself to the situation. And that's that human discernment of, like, not just can I do it, but should you do it? Is it appropriate? What is the effect going to be? What are the impacts that are going to happen? And you're always going to be surprised. There's going to be something that you weren't expecting, but how do you deal with that? How do you work with your colleagues and your friends and your family to go beyond, a sticking point? And so I think that ethics, learning to communicate with each other, because that's really, again, that's where learning happens also, is just working with each other. And if we can't treat each other with respect and work ethically, not just with each other, but with our technologies and things, like, that's going to be a problem. So that is my key thing, is like, let's not forget about the human aspect and the importance of our discernment about morals, right and wrong. And I'm not saying what those are, but even just to have those discussions is really important.
Yeah, agreed, 1,000%. What about you?
I'll just quickly say, people learn to sort of trust and follow their curiosity, and these materials being out there for open as a space to play that out is one skill that I hope people develop.
So on the more academic side, is there a course topic you think the world needs more of right now? I mean, you kind of already mentioned.
Well, can I say?
You said ethics, but
I'm thinking along the same lines around this topic. I'll situate in a little bit more systems thinking and the interconnections among things. I think there's a trend within academic learning to get super specialized. And so, one of the things I hope for in lifelong learning is to create the space for people to sort of step back and realize how interconnected things are.
Right. Right. Can you talk about an innovation in online learning you're optimistic about?
I'm going to say AI, actually. I am optimistic. And what I'm hoping will happen with AI is like, so right now, there's all these things of like, oh, people are using AI to be dishonest in their learning, right? But I think that we can use AI so that you don't feel like you need to be dishonest in your learning. You're actually enjoying the process. There's the scaffolding that works for you. So you don't feel pressured because it's like, I just don't get this and I have an exam tomorrow. You know what? You use AI to get you to the point where you're comfortable and understand everything, and then you've learned what you need to learn. And then you don't need to be dishonest in your learning. And so I'm really excited because I think that not only makes people feel good about themselves, but then you're actually learning.
What about you?
I'm going to apply AI and machine learning specifically to language translations as a more near-term, absolute, unmitigated good. It's incredible the reach we've had with our materials being basically English language. It's going to, dramatically expand here over the next few years as we put these language translations into practice.
Curt, what's one thing you wish more people understood about open education or open learning?
Yeah, I'm going to return to the lifelong learning theme here. In the work that we do at OpenCourseWare, it tends to be situated within schools. These are the places that have the most resources and capacity and kind of the infrastructure to do it. But one of the biggest surprises in rolling out OCW 25 years ago was how vibrant and committed these curious lifelong learners are, and to just have it be more recognized and supported that this really is a lifelong process, I think is something that I wish for greater understanding about. Yeah.
What about you, Dana?
I think one of the things that I would like people to understand more, and we covered this a little bit in some of our other talks that we had, is just the amount of work that goes into, working with faculty, presenting the content. I mean, just the tangible things, like you need a platform, you need computers, you need people who are working with faculty. And so I think like understanding that like there is no magic wand to make this happen. There are people behind this in the resources of MIT and from donors that help us support this mission. And so I think that's something to highlight, that it does take quite a bit of work to get this knowledge out there.
For sure. I mean, all of these resources are free to the world, but they actually cost something to make, right? And then the last question, a favorite unexpected use of MIT materials? Either of you?
I got a great one, and this came my way just a few days ago. We've always known that OpenCourseWare basically gets used all over the world, on every country and every continent, even Antarctica. And a few days ago, we were forwarded a message from a group at a research station in Antarctica who's been watching a series of lecture videos about 20th century physics for their Friday afternoon. Let's watch some movies. And they sent us a photo of there's like 15 or 20 people in these nice chairs in this room in Antarctica, and how thrilled they are to get to learn about this. This is the BICEP. It's called BICEP. It's a project looking at like background cosmic radiation in Antarctica. So that was
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's really great. And these are really, truly wonderful responses. We received some really thought-provoking questions from people who've RSVP'd for this event. And some of them want to know, well, how do you decide what new courses or resources to build next?
Well, we have, there are basically two directions we come from. One is, what do people want? What are people looking for? What's already out there? Where does the MIT's take on particular knowledge differ from others? Like, so kind of like, what's the MIT flavor that we want to get out there? So there's, directions from the learners and what they're looking for, but then also what faculty want to build things, what faculty are passionate about open education and want to get their knowledge and their teaching out there more. So it's a bit of a combination where faculty can propose something that they would like to build. We work with them to build it. We usually provide a little bit of funding for them to help, do the typing and the clicking. That's what we always call it. Like, again, it takes people to put the stuff into the platform. And then, so it's faculty interest and availability, and what do the people out in the world need to know, and what does MIT want to share with them?
I think the process is a little bit different with OpenCourseWare. Can you kind of talk about it?
Our mission from day one, and continues to be, it includes kind of reflecting the entire MIT curriculum. And so thinking about how to apply our good but still limited resources to cover that, where there's like 3,000 subjects in the active catalog, right? We can't possibly keep up with literally everything, but how do we balance covering the hot new courses that are brand new created, returning to and updating things that we've published previously, but maybe the pedagogy has changed, and also keeping up not just with the things that are being taught in the formal curriculum, but also the kind of vibrant, broader, educational community, things that go on for our in the January non-credit, period, for instance, which are some of our most fascinating, richest content. I'll just say this is part of the art of managing the OCW program, is how to strike that balance, and we are grateful to have all the resources that we can, and we'll keep doing it.
And so, to that end, can you talk about what collaborations with universities, governments, or non-governmental organizations that help you extend your program's reach?
Yeah, I think this lands in particular on OpenCourseWare. I'm grateful to have a couple of people on the OCW team who focus specifically on this collaborations aspect. Part of OCW's original mission was not only to do this sharing from the MIT curriculum, but also then to invest in building a global movement in open education. And we're thrilled to see how this has come to shape. We've got several hundred institutions and colleagues around the world who are doing things in this spirit, and they're taking sort of the base, in the starting point inspiration, but making it their own and doing new things. So collaborations, for instance, in the United States, most recently with community colleges who have taken open education and figured out how to really put it into practice to support college affordability, zero textbook cost courses and degree programs supported by state government policy, saving students millions and millions of dollars by putting this free and open stuff into practice in their classroom. We're thrilled to watch this develop, and and to learn from their experience to help us do what we do better. Yeah.
I mean, and it's lovely that on OpenCourseWare you can find over 100 open textbooks there for anybody to access. We had a question from Zadani, who asked, how do you see open education platforms like MITx and OpenCourseWare evolving with the rise of AI-driven learning tools? And what opportunities do these create for learners globally?
I'm going to do a little bit of a plug for the work that Curt and I are doing. So we are working together with people from both teams to understand a better cohesive open education experience from MIT. And so we're kind of looking at all the different aspects of AI that are already on the Learn platform, which is where MITx content now is, and OCW is findable through Learn, and that's MIT Learn, right? And on there is AI capability, which we call Ask Tim. Tim is the MIT mascot, which is MIT spelled backwards, which I didn't realize right away.
Oh my gosh!
I was like, wow, that's really clever. Oh my god. And so that again kind of goes back to the helping people learn at their speed, right? And so we've been talking about, well, how do we go one step further and actually help guide people through? And this is like the holy grail of education, right? Is like, how do you meet the learner where they are and basically make a custom experience for them around their learning journey? And so we're working on like, well, how do we integrate OpenCourseWare material, MITx courses, and AI, and get the person where they want to go? Or not even, maybe they don't know where they want to go, or just help them along the way of wherever they're going. And so I'm really excited for our work to continue to kind of bring those things together and really tie in AI to help navigate all of this great material that we have.
Curt, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll put a little bit finer point on one aspect of that, and this connects actually to what we learned from the collaborations process of like, what does it look like to say, take MIT materials and make it work for different kinds of learning communities? Right now, these really smart community college faculty are doing that translation, and their insight is really key to it, but they can only scale so much for the independent lifelong learner who isn't in one of those classes. Can we figure out how to do the same sort of adaptation, personalization, if you will? I think will be really important in the long run to supporting the sort of broader lifelong learning mission. And I think AI will just be a central tool for doing so. Yeah.
You guys, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Curt and Dana, for, again, sharing your experiences and insights with us. It's clear that you both care deeply, you and your teams care deeply about open education and about sharing MIT educational experiences with the world and materials with the world. So thank you for all you do and for all that your teams do. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in to this open conversation. We welcome you to keep learning with MITx, OpenCourseWare, and Open Learning. We also welcome you to support our work. And so there are a few ways you can do this. You could please tell all your friends, family, and colleagues about our resources, get them to use our content. We'd love to also hear from you if you have a story about perhaps how OCW or MITx has helped change your life, have helped you get a better job. I mean, we find all of those stories incredibly inspiring and uplifting with the humans behind the screen, but also it really puts into a focus the impact that our programs are doing in the world. And lastly, if you're in a position to do so, please donate today. Today is the MIT Annual Giving Day. It's a 24-hour challenge. If you and 399 other people donate today to any of our programs, a generous alumni donor will gift us another $20,000. And that really means a lot for our programs and for our efforts. So thank you guys again. Until the next conversation, and bye for now.